Hello guys, I'm Shifan, and in this video we'll be going through the last 10 MCQ from the G.C.E level Biology MCQ paper 2024. If you haven't gone through my previous videos from MCQ 1 to MCQ 40, please go through that too. The link for that will be given below. Now, the last 10 MCQs, unlike the first 40 MCQs, these are multiple response questions, which means they have more than one answer. For this reason, these questions can be a bit more tricky than the first 40 questions. So we have to be more careful and more wary when we are answering the question. And another thing is, if we take the first 40 questions, they are in a specific order, So first few questions from unit 1, then unit 2. So in that order, it will go until unit 10. But the last 10 questions, they come randomly from each chapter. So that's all about it. So without further ado, let's go into question 41. Okay. Question 41. Which of the following statements regarding cell junction are correct? Okay. What are cell junctions? Cell junctions is how two cells communicate with each other. So cell junctions are present between the plasma membrane of two cells. So this is cell 1 and this is cell 2. Between these two cells, we have the cell junctions. So depending on the function, cell junctions are different types. We have desmosomes, we have tight junctions, and we have gap junctions. Now let's go through the statement. So the statement A says animal embryos have cell junctions which allow passage of ions. Okay, the cell junctions which are involved in passing of ions between the cells are gap junctions. So these gap junctions, they have tiny holes between the cells. So it's like if you take two rooms and between the two rooms they have a single wall, and between that wall we have a small hole. So gap junction is something like that, and the tiny hole is made up of intermediate filaments. So these intermediate filaments act as the railroad to pass substance from one cell to the other. So animal embryos have these gap junctions. So they allow passing of certain signals. So animal embryos, we know embryos grow. So if one cell grows and it wants the other cell to grow, it will pass the signal to the next cell. In this way, the whole embryo can grow. So embryo has gap junctions which allow passage of ions, which is correct. So let's highlight that answer. Okay. Second statement, tight junctions connect the plasma membranes of adjacent cells, forming a continuous seal which prevents the leakage of extracellular fluid. So just like the word says tight junction, it provides a tight seal between the two cells which doesn't allow the passage of extracellular fluid. So this statement is also correct. And these tight junctions, they are very important to the cell. So these tight junctions are present in various places in the body. Like a few examples include the stomach. In the stomach, we have tight junctions. So if we doesn't have tight junctions in the stomach, the hydrochloric acid which is present in the stomach can leak into the extracellular fluid. Same in the bladder which holds the urine. So if there are no tight junctions in the bladder, the urine can travel throughout the extracellular matrix. So tight junctions are really important, and the second statement is also correct. The third statement says plasmodesmata are non-living connections between cell walls of adjoining part cells. Okay. We know, so here I have added an image of the plasmodesmata. So plasmodesmata are formed by extensions of the cell membrane. So this is the cell membrane. So here we can see this is the plasmodesmata, the tiny hole which connects the cytoplasm of two cells. Now, this plasmodesmata is made up of the cell membrane, and cell membrane is a living component, and also it is made up of the cytoplasm, and cytoplasm is also another living component. So this statement is totally wrong. Here they say plasmodesmata are non-living connections between cell walls of adjoining plant cells. So we can eliminate this answer. Okay. The fourth statement says desmosomes allow exchange of signals and materials between adjacent cells. As I told earlier, the junction that is involved in the exchange of materials is the gap junction. So we can eliminate that answer. But desmosomes, what is the function of desmosomes? So desmosomes, they provide mechanical support to the cell. So we know most of the cells in our body undergo a lot of stretching and a lot of resistance. So in this case, it keeps the two cells together how much they stretch. For example, if you take the bladder, more urine get filled in the bladder will start to stretch. If we don't have desmosomes, the bladder will break apart, right? So because of the presence of the desmosomes, cells are kept tightly together. So this is not a function of the desmosome, so we can eliminate that answer also. So E answer, they say gap junctions attach the cytoskeleton of adjoining cells by intermediate filaments. As I told earlier, they are made up of tiny holes and they have intermediate filaments between them which act as a railroad and allow the passing of substance from one cell to another. Again, E answer is also correct. So the correct answers are A, B and E. Okay. Now let's go through the 42nd question. Which of the following combinations of some organisms and the time period they were living on Earth is occurred? Okay, they have given some organisms and we have to find the correct time period of their of when they evolved. Okay, first we have early microorganisms. Okay, early microorganisms are prokaryotic cells. Yes, they evolved about 3.5 billion years ago. So A is correct. So then has first photosynthetic organisms. So, the first photosynthetic organisms are cyanobacteria, and cyanobacteria evolved about 2.7 million years ago. So B is also correct. Then we have the first eukaryotes. So eukaryotes, they evolved a long period after the photosynthetic organisms were evolved. So they did not evolve about 2.6 billion years ago. They evolved around like 1.8 billion years ago. So again, for third answer is wrong, and we can eliminate that. Then we have oldest protist. So okay, this is also correct. Oldest protist arrived about 1.2 billion years ago. So I'll highlight it. And E answer. So the last statement says ancestors of erythropods about 700 million years ago. Okay. Erythropods arrived 670 million years ago, not 700 million years ago. And also remember, the organism that evolved 700 million years ago are sponges. And another thing to remember, they might ask you about this in your future exams, is about erythropods. So erythropods are the first land organisms that arrived on Earth. Also remember that part. So the correct answer here is A, B and D. Now let's go to the 43rd question. In monocot leaves, they say two cell layers may sometimes be present in the palisade mesophyll. We know monocot leaves are not separated into palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll. They just have a mesophyll layer. Because monocot leaves are thin, they don't need a separate palisade layer and spongy layer for gas exchange and photosynthesis. So this statement is wrong. Then we eliminate it. Then we have the second statement. They say old epidermis may be replaced by thick cuticle. Okay. In monocot leaves, epidermis is not replaced by the cuticle. Epidermis actually secretes the cuticle. So epidermis secretes the cuticle, which forms a waxy layer on the surface of the cuticle. So again, we can eliminate the B answer because the epidermis is not replaced by the cuticle. Epidermis actually secretes the cuticle. Then we can eliminate the first two answers. Then the third answer is chloroplasts are abundant in all mesophyll cells. Okay, we know monocot leaves, they undergo photosynthesis. To undergo photosynthesis, so where does photosynthesis take place? It takes place in the mesophyll cells of the monocot leaves. So for the photosynthesis to take place efficiently in the mesophyll cell, they should be abundant of chloroplast. So the third answer is correct, and I'll highlight it. So the fourth answer is veins are parallelly arranged. Okay, in monocot leaves, the veins are parallelly arranged. They run parallel to each other. The last statement, stomata are mainly found in the lower epidermis. Now, if we take monocot leaves, what is the best example for the monocot leaves? They are the grasses. So if we take grass, the grass is not horizontal, If we find grass, the grass is more vertical. So because the grass is vertical, they can capture light from both the lower side and the upper side. So because of this, stomata is found on both the lower side and the upper side. So this statement is wrong. So they say stomata is only found in the lower epidermis, but they are found in both the lower epidermis and the upper epidermis. So the correct answer is C and D. Okay. The 44th question. Which of the following blood groups can be received by a person with a B-Rh positive blood group during a blood transfusion? So the person here has a B blood group and he is also Rh positive. First, let's take a look at the B blood group. Okay, so here I have added a table of all the blood groups and the antibodies that are present in the plasma. So if you find this table important, take a screenshot of this. Anyways, let's go through it. So the person has B blood group. So a person with B blood group can receive blood from another B blood group person because they don't have the anti-B antibodies on their plasma. So B blood group person is compatible with another B blood group person. Okay. So what's the other? Can a B blood group person receive blood from A blood group person? No, right? Because B blood group has anti-A antibodies, and if a blood group person donates the blood to a B blood group person, these anti-A antibodies will react with these antigens present on the A blood group surface. And again, they can't receive blood from A B blood group because they have anti-A antibodies. So these anti-A antibodies will react with the A antigen present in this red blood cell. But what about the O blood group? So the O blood group, they are called the universal donor. The O blood group can be donated into any other blood group type people because they don't have antigens on their surface. So if an O blood group is donated into a B blood group person because they don't have any antigens on the surface, these anti-A antibodies doesn't react with them. So B blood group person can receive blood from another B blood group person and O blood group person. What about the RH system? Okay, so if a person is Rh positive, it means they have a specific protein on the surface of the red blood cells. So a person with Rh positive can get blood from another Rh positive person, right? And also a Rh negative person. So if we take a Rh positive person, they have protein on their surface. So if they inject blood from another Rh positive person, these proteins are identified as self. So there is no issue in that. And again, Rh negative individuals don't have that protein on their surface. Again, if they injected into the Rh positive, there is no effect. So now let's go through the answers. Okay. So they can receive blood from B blood group, correct. And Rh negative, yes, also correct. So a person with Rh positive blood group can receive blood from a Rh negative individual. And O blood group is the universal donor. So they can be donated into any other blood group type person and also Rh negative. So if a person has Rh negative means yes, they can be sent into a Rh positive person. So B1 is also correct. Then AB Rh negative, we know AB blood group cannot be donated into a blood group person or B blood group person because they have anti-A or anti-B antibodies. So we can eliminate the C answer. Again, D answer, O blood group, yes, can be donated, and Rh positive, yes, Rh positive can be injected into another Rh positive person. Again, AB blood group, we can eliminate it. So the correct answer is A, B and D. Okay. Now let's go to the 45th question. Which of the following function structure combinations regarding human brain are correct? So first we have regulating appetite. So regulating appetite is important for the survival. So a lot of things that are important for the survival, such as thirst, appetite, then the sleep and wake cycle, then we have flight and fight response, right? So these are all important for the survival, and everything that is important for the survival is related to the hypothalamus, not the medulla oblongata. So first answer is wrong. Then we have controlling auditory reflexes. Okay, we know controlling auditory reflexes and visual reflexes are part of the midbrain. So B answer is correct. Then we have controlling voluntary muscle movements. Yes, controlling voluntary muscle movements, it's a function of the cerebellum. Okay. So controlling autonomic nervous system. So the structure that controls this is the hypothalamus again. So this is also the correct answer. Then finally we have regulating sleep and wake cycle. Again, sleep and wake cycle, as I told, it is a function of the hypothalamus, not the thalamus. So the correct answer is B, C and D. But in the marking scheme, they have said the B answer is wrong. But in the source book, the structure, so the function of the midbrain is controlling auditory reflexes and visual reflexes. So I think that's an issue from their side. There is a marking scheme mistake, I guess. Okay. Let's go to the 46th question. Which of the following statements regarding oogenesis of a woman is correct? So we know oogenesis is the process of the development of the egg cell in a woman. So a summary of this oogenesis, it starts with in the embryo and it starts in the embryo and again it stops. Then it again continues in the puberty. So again stops. So again it starts to continue during fertilization. So there are like two stop points during oogenesis. So let's go. Okay, now let's go through the 46th question. Which of the following statement regarding oogenesis of a woman are correct? Okay, oogenesis is the process of the development of egg in a woman, and the process starts in the embryo and stops again, and it again starts at the puberty, then again stops, then again continues after fertilization. So this process takes place throughout the life of a woman until like 40 to 45 years. So now let's go through the answers. This first answer is primordial germ cells originate from the yolk sac of the embryo. So primordial germ cells are the precursor cells of gametes. So these are the first cells that are involved in oogenesis, and they originate from the yolk sac of the embryo, which is correct. So I'll highlight it. B answer says oogonia are formed by the primordial germ cells through mitotic division. So the second type of cell that is involved in oogenesis is the oogonia. So primordial germ cells forms the oogonia by mitotic division. So the second one is also correct. The C says primary oocytes completes meiosis 1 before birth. So primordial germ cells undergoes mitosis and forms the oogonia. So these oogonia cells, most of these oogonia cells, they also undergo mitosis and form more oogonia cells, but some of these oogonia starts doing meiosis. Then we call it the primary oocyte. So this primary oocyte is not completed before birth. Primary oocyte starts meiosis but stops at prophase 1. So this statement is wrong. Then D answer says meiosis 2 of the secondary oocyte starts at puberty and is arrested at prophase. As I told, primary oocyte doesn't complete meiosis 1, it stops at prophase. Now what happens if a woman at puberty, this primary oocyte completes the meiosis 1. So which was stopped at prophase 1 will complete the meiosis 1 and start meiosis 2. And meiosis 2 will stop at metaphase 1. Sorry, meiosis 2 will stop at metaphase 2, not at prophase. So again, this answer is wrong. Sorry, wrong. So sorry, I highlighted. Yeah. Oh, how do I guess it? Okay. So this answer is wrong. It is arrested at metaphase, not at prophase. And the final answer is over when two polar bodies are formed when the secondary oocyte completes meiosis 2 with the penetration of a sperm. Okay, let's continue with the D answer. What happens during puberty? The meiosis 1 is completed and it starts meiosis 2, but meiosis 2 stops at prophase. Sorry, stops at metaphase. Now, during fertilization, when a sperm penetrates the egg, this meiosis 2 completes and forms the ovum and a second polar body. But here they are saying they are forming two polar bodies. And this is correct. Why? Because another polar body is formed when meiosis 1 is completed. So when meiosis 1 is complete, the primary oocyte develops into the secondary oocyte and a first polar body. So the two polar bodies are the first polar body and the second polar body. So ovum and two polar bodies are formed and the secondary oocyte completes meiosis 2 with the penetration of a sperm. So this is also correct. So correct answers are A, B and E. Okay, now 47th question about DNA sequencing. Okay, what is DNA sequencing? DNA sequencing is the process of identifying the exact nucleotide sequence of a DNA. So as the first statement says, A is a process to determine the precise order of bases in the DNA in molecule. Yes, it is correct. So I'll highlight it. Okay. So B answers cannot be applied in paternity testing. What is paternity testing? Paternity testing is the process of identifying the father of a child. We know we can compare a father's genome with a child's genome because they both share similar genes. For this reason, we can use DNA sequencing and find out do they have similar sequences or not. So they can be applied in paternity testing. So this is wrong. C answer helps to diagnose cancer. So how is cancer caused? Cancer is caused by mutations which occurs in the genes. Again, genes are involved. So when genes are involved, DNA sequencing can be used to find the specific sequence of gene. So to elaborate on it, so what happens is cancer is caused by mutation. So these mutations are caused by genes. So what are the genes? So there are several genes such as oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes. So mutations occur in these genes and we can use DNA sequencing to find out whether the mutation is still present. If the mutation is present, the person still has cancer. If there is no mutation in those genes, the person doesn't have cancer, and we can use DNA sequencing to do this. So it helps diagnose cancer, which is correct. Then also the fourth statement, D statement is helpful in early diagnosis of carriers of genetic diseases. So who are carriers of genetic diseases? A person who doesn't have a genetic disease but carries the gene for that specific genetic disease. Then the best example for this is sickle cell anemia. So we know sickle cell anemia is caused by a gene mutation. So DNA sequencing again can be used to find out if the mutation is present in the carrier's genome. And again, D answer is also correct. The final we have, they say, has revealed the absence of multiple copies of genes in the human genome. But DNA sequencing has revealed the presence of multiple copies of genes in the human genome, not the absence. So another thing to remember, this presence of multiple copies are involved in paternity testing. So if you are further studying biology after A levels, you will know how these multiple copies of genes can be used in paternity testing, because the father and the child have a certain amount of multiple copies. If the father has 10 multiple copies and the child has 10 multiple copies, he is the father. So it works that way. So the correct answer is A, C and D. So the 48th question, which of the following statements regarding microorganisms are correct? Okay. Fungal hyphae uses organic chemicals as the source of energy. Okay, we know fungi are made up of hyphae and fungi are chemoheterotrophs, which means They use organic chemicals as a source of energy. So A1 is correct. Second answer is mycoplasma and yeast reproduce by budding and fission. So what is mycoplasma? Mycoplasma are bacterial cells, but they lack cell wall. So how does bacterial cell usually proliferate? They use budding and fission. So one part of the answer is correct. Then we have yeast. So yeast is a type of unicellular fungi. And one thing to remember about unicellular fungi reproduce by budding and fission. So this statement is also correct. And also another thing to remember, as I said, unicellular fungi, they reproduce by budding and fission. But on the other side, we have multicellular fungi. For example, molds. So these can reproduce sexually and asexually, but the yeast can only reproduce asexually by budding and fission. So A is correct, B is correct, and C answer. Okay, Acerobacter sp can grow only in aerobic environments, can generate energy through fermentation. Okay, we know Acerobacter sp is an obligate aerobe, which means they need oxygen for their survival. So if an organism needs oxygen for their survival, they can't undergo anaerobic respiration. So only if a bacteria undergoes anaerobic respiration, they can undergo fermentation. So here they are saying it can generate energy through fermentation, but they can't generate energy through fermentation. So another thing to remember about Acerobacter sp is that it is used in food production, right? We saw earlier on the first MCQ series that Acerobacter is used in the production of ethanol to produce vinegar using ethanol. So this is a highly aerobic process. So this answer is wrong. Okay guys, now let's go to the D answer. Cyanobacteria carry thick wall heterocysts to survive during unfavorable conditions. Cyanobacteria do carry heterocysts, but they don't allow to survive during unfavorable conditions. They have a different function. So if we take cyanobacteria, what they do is they use atmospheric nitrogen and convert it to more usable forms such as ammonia. So this process is carried out by an enzyme, and this enzyme is very sensitive to oxygen. So if there's oxygen present, this enzyme won't work properly. So because of this, cyanobacteria has this heterocyst. So this process takes place inside the heterocyst, and inside the heterocyst, the oxygen can't enter. So that is the function of the heterocyst, but not to survive during unfavorable conditions. So this statement is wrong. But cyanobacteria do contain some other structure that helps them to survive during unfavorable conditions, and we call them the akinete. So akinete is the one that helps the cyanobacteria survive during unfavorable conditions, not the heterocyst. So we can eliminate that answer. The final answer is purple sulfur bacteria are chemoautotropes that uses CO2 as a source of carbon. We know purple sulfur bacteria are photoautotropes. They use light to produce energy, but they use CO2 as the source of carbon. So we can eliminate this answer because they are not chemoautotropes. So the correct answer is A and B. Now let's go to the 49th question. So the question is regarding invasive alien plant species. So what are invasive alien plant species? So these are certain kind of plants that are present somewhere else on the world. So we introduce them into the native biodiversity, where there are a lot of plants, animals, there are a lot of crops. We introduce them to this environment thinking they have beneficial effects, but in reality they have a very harmful effect. They can kill the crops, and they can destroy the organisms there, and they can inhibit the seed germinations. So they actually destroy that specific biodiversity. So in other words, it's like introducing an evil friend into a good friend group. This evil guy destroy the whole friend group. So it is something like that. So the first statement says they alter ecosystem values. Okay, we know if we take a specific ecosystem, they can produce a lot of goods to the human, right? They can produce plants, then they can produce drugs, right? So they can produce a lot of things. So if we introduce this invasive plant species, they destroy all these plants, So every good we can get from that ecosystem, these invasive alien plants destroy it. So it alters the ecosystem value. So this is correct. Okay. Second statement is says are confined to areas with little environmental variation. So they are saying invasive plant species they are on a certain area, and they are very little adaptable to environmental variation. So if it is this way, invasive plant species won't be a big issue, right? But in reality, invasive plant species they can tolerate a wide range of environments, like the dry conditions, hot conditions. So they can be adaptable for all these conditions, and they are highly uh, invasive. They are highly, in other words, they can reproduce rapidly. For this reason, this statement is also wrong. They have very high environmental variation. Third one, may encourage wildfires. Okay, how can this cause wildfires? So if we take invasive alien plant species, they have a lot of biomass in them. So in other words, they have a lot of chemical energy in them. So we know energy can be transferred. So during drought or very hot conditions, the chemical energy present in the invasive plant species can lead to fire. So because of this, it may encourage wildfires. So again, C is also correct. So D answer, they say may prevent germination of seeds of other plants. So there are certain invasive plant species, example lantana, right? So these plants they can prevent germination of the other plant seeds. So D1 is also correct. So A is correct, ecosystem values, C is correct, and D is also correct. So what about E1? Do not affect genetic diversity but reduce ecosystem diversity. So what is the ecosystem diversity? So ecosystem diversity is everything that is included in an ecosystem. The food chain, the plants, right? The animals, the organisms, everything is present in the ecosystem. So invasive alien plant species can kill the organisms, the plants, the seeds. So because of this, it reduces ecosystem diversity. But they are saying it does not affect genetic diversity. Okay. When ecosystem diversity is reduced, what happens? The organisms are killed. So the number of organisms destroyed. So what happens when organisms are reduced? The genes that are present in that organisms are also reduced. Now there's very less gene in that population. So here they are saying they do not affect genetic diversity, but when ecosystem diversity reduces, the genetic diversity also reduces. So E is wrong. So the correct answer is A, C, and D. Okay, guys. Now let's go through the last question of the GCE level biology MCQ paper 2024. So this question is based on the different plant species on different ecosystems. So they have given us 9 plant species. Now let's go through the question. Plants that are found in 3 ecosystems arranged according to increasing annual rainfall in correct sequences are. So we have to find the plant species according to their rainfall, increasing rainfall. For that, we have to first find the ecosystem they are from. Then we have to find the rainfall, right? So let's go through the ecosystem. So here I have made a table on all the ecosystem, the species, and the rainfall. So if you feel this is important, please take a screenshot of this. Okay, so let's go through the first answer. So first we have SRQ. So S is Guineandera, R is Palo, and U is tussock grass. Okay. So Guineandera is present on tropical thorn scrub. Right? So I'll highlight it. And their rain is below 1000 millimeters. Then we have Palu. Palu is present on dry monsoon forest, and their rain is about 1000 millimeters to 1500 millimeters. Then finally we have tussock grass. Tussock grass is present on wet patana. So here is patana tussock grasses. So it's present on specifically wet patana, which has a rainfall about 2000 millimeters per year. So actually, if you see, First we have Ginyandara below 1000, then we have Palu 1000 to 1500, then we have Wet Patana 2000. So this is actually in an increasing order. So A answer is correct. So I'll highlight it. Now let's go through the B answer. So okay, yeah. TQ1X, right? So TQ1X, T is Hirasa and Q is Kaluvara and it's X, right? Yes, TQ1X, Hirasa, Kaluvara and Valkurudu. So let's take a look at it. So Hirasa, Kaluvara and Valkurudu, right? So whereas Hirasa is present again on tropical thorn shrubs. Wait, I'll highlight it in green. So Hirasa, then we have what? Hirasa, Kaluvara, right? Okay. Yes. Where's Kaluvara? Again, they are present on dimonsoon forest. And then we have Valkurudu. So Valkurudu is present in tropical montane forest. So let's take a look at the rainfall. So Hirasa has a rainfall below 1000 millimeters. Then Kaluvara has a rainfall of 1000 to 1500 millimeters. And Valkurudu has a rainfall of 2000 millimeters. So again, this is also going on an increasing annual rainfall order. So B answer is also correct. So I'll highlight it. So this is correct. Now let's go through the C answer. C, S, U and W. Okay, let's wait. Okay, S is Guineandra. SU is tussock grass. So again, we have a different set of combinations, tussock grass. And W is Veera. Okay. So Guineandra and tussock grass. So again, I'll highlight them in different colors. So we have Guineandra, then we have tussock grass and Veera. So tussock grass again. I'm present in Wet Patana, then Veera is present in I don't see it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, it's present on dry monsoon forest. Okay. So Guineandra below 1000 millimeters and tussock grass about 2000 and Veera is 1000 to 1500. So this is not going on an increasing annual rainfall order. So we can eliminate that answer. Now let's go to the D1, P, W and V. So P is again Siliconia, P, W and V. Okay. Okay, P is Siliconia, W is Veera, P, W and V. So it's P, W and V, right? Yes, P, W and V is Keena. So let's go through the rainfall. So it's Siliconia, Veera and Keena. Siliconia, yeah, Siliconia. So Siliconia is present in salt marshes. So salt marshes have very low rainfall, and okay, let's change the color again. So this is a headache changing colors. Pink, yes, present on salt marshes. Then we have the Siliconia, Veera, and Veera is present in again dry monsoon forest, right? So I'll highlight it. Present in dry monsoon forest. Then finally we have what? And Keena. Keena is present in tropical montane forest. So Silicon species low rainfall, probably below 1000 millimeters, right? Then we have Veera had 1000 to 1500. Then we have Keena 2000 millimeters. So again, D1 is also correct. Anyways, let's go to the final one, P, V, and Q. Let's erase all this. It will be easy. P, V, and Q. So again, we'll choose red this time. P, Siliconia. V, Keena. And Q, we have Calvera. Right? It's P, V, and Q, right? Yes, P, V, Q. Yes. So I'll erase all this. Yes. So let's highlight it. So P is Siliconia, Keena, and Calvera. Yes, PV, Siliconia, Vida, and Calvera. Yes. Siliconia is present on salt marshes again. P and then V. What was V? V is Keena and Q is Calvera. Vida, again a dry monsoon forest, and Calvera is present on again dry monsoon forest. So we can see Vida and Calvera has the same rainfall, not an increase in rainfall. So the correct answer is A, B, and D. So A and B, D are the final answers. So with this, the first past paper analysis of 2024 is over. So that's it. And so next I want to do the 2023 biology MCQ past paper. And very soon I'll upload the video for that. So until then, take care and